In addition to inviting hailed conservative hero Liz Truss over, CPAC has been having a wacky fun time being open and mask off about being anti-democracy. Far-right influencer calls for end of democracy at CPAC as Republicans downplay Jan 6. Jack Posobiec, it's the Nazi. This is the guy who was 1488 posting way back. Trump, what are you on about today? What's your dealio, huh?
What's happened to them has probably, to that extent, never happened in our country before. The J6 hostages, you saw the spirit that these people have, the spirit you...
The hostages? I thought they were political prisoners, but I guess now this is still like a 3 years ongoing, like, hostage situation, you know?
I think they wouldn't have any spirit left, but they have tremendous spirit. What's happened to them has probably, to that extent, never happened in our country before.
Why do they do that? They play it twice. It's very confusing. I don't get it. Don't get it.
All right, welcome. I just wanted to say, look, welcome to the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it with this right here. We'll replace it with this right here.
Is this who's the speaker being like yeah, all right, get off the stage?
We'll replace it with this right here.
Amen.
Oh, there we go. Never mind. Is this like the main CPAC hall? It always starts with sarcasm. Jack Posobiec isn't subtle about what he wants. He's saying it jokingly because he means it sincerely. That's Bannon. Oh, yeah, that's Bannon. Over there, see? Steve Bannon. Another hero of the far right. Not him using the white power fist. Oh, you're mistaken. The extended fist is actually the black power symbol.
We will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it with this right here.
See? He's saying it's time for us to get rid of this bourgeois white supremacist democracy and replace it with a woke pan-Africanist, utopia. It's worse. He has a cross. Oh, is he holding a little cross? Yeah. I wait. Let me see. Oh yeah, you can see it. You can see it there dangling. See? It's like it's a crucifix or maybe rosary. It's probably a crucifix. I just arrived. Why does Vosh want to get rid of democracy? Well, to replace it with the woke pan-Africanist utopia, obviously. Steve Bannon, you mean the guy that went to jail for defrauding people that gave him money to build the border wall? I think the Democrats could learn from this. It's so cool how when the conservatives will like spend a whole year arguing that they want what's best for the American people and they're not Nazis, and then they have their political conservative conference and they're just like, fuck it, everyone, let's go. Like every Nazi, every grifter, everyone who's ever up, everyone who's so optically damaging we don't associate with them normally. Liz Truss, Jack Posobiec, Steve Bannon, everyone, let's go. Everyone get in here, The anti-democratic tendencies of the Republican Party aren't exactly a secret, and it's not the first time that I've covered it. It honestly feels kind of tiring covering it again, though we do get a little shot into the next segment because the independent.co.uk article describes him as far-right activist. I wish they would just say Nazi, and prominent Pizzagate influencer, because we'll be talking about Alex Jones next and how well he's doing. Have you talked about Project 2025 in detail before? Yes! Yes, I have! I get a weird number of messages and emails from people asking me to talk about it. Maybe I didn't talk about it, like, maybe the term Project 2025 wasn't in the title, so like people don't see it if they search for it, or maybe they don't even search for it. I don't know. Posobiec is among guests at this year's 4-day CPAC event in Washington, D.C., where Mr. Trump, right-wing media personalities, Congress, state officials, On Friday, he said his plan is to, quote, end democracy, included rolling back what he claimed as a list of Democrat policies, part of a regime that we will overturn. They say democracy, but they mean authoritarianism, and they know it. Yes. Some of our real heroes were there on January 6th, putting their lives on the line, said panel moderator Julie Kelly, a right-wing media personality and author of January 6th, How Democrats Use the Capitol Protest to Launch a War on Terror Against Political Right. Isn't it cool how this happened the exact same day that Nancy Pelosi was like, Netanyahu's far right. I don't mean conservative because that's a legitimate thing to be. And meanwhile, the Conservative Political Action Committee conference just seems to be entirely like, yeah, the beer hall putsch failed, but they were heroes and we'll do it better next time. Like that fully, like while she's sitting there giving this like, well, we should all work along, bipartisanship. I don't want to imply that being conservative is a bad thing, Meanwhile, all of this. Former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark, who is criminally charged in Georgia for his alleged attempts to unlawfully overturn 2020 election results, addressed CPAC on the 23rd of February. Nice. Simon Gold, fined and sentenced to 60 days in prison in 2022 for illegally entering the Capitol on January 6. Seeing a pattern, ending with Trump has vowed to pardon Jan 6 defendants if elected. He could do it too. What more is there to say, man? Genuinely, like, a huge part of my job isn't just like conveying the argument, it's conveying it in an entertaining way. And I feel like I'm running out of interesting ways to convey the very correct point. I feel like I have to keep pointing out the sky is blue, but people don't know the sky is blue. Also, did you see Michael Knowles call for the end of same-sex marriage openly at CPAC? I didn't see that, but that's not surprising. Michael Knowles is a sort of a very dense accumulation of Hitler particles. He was the one who said that we need an end to transgenderism, so not terribly surprising. That's also, by the way, the policy of like every Republican party at both a state and federal level, like every state Republican party. So not a huge surprise. That being said, when they do stuff like that, it reminds me of the fact that people like Michael Knowles aren't trying to win over new voters or a majority of the country. They're trying to radicalize a group of brown shirts that they can use to subvert democracy. Same-sex marriage is well supported in the United States, even a lot of Republicans. Like when you see Republicans like further and further lock in on not especially effective or popular messaging, like ending gay marriage or being anti-abortion, like totally anti-abortion, like federal ban on abortion, or ending transgenderism, they're not doing that as part of an effort to like get new voters on board. They're doing that as part of an effort to pull away their already hyper-radicalized constituency and make them more likely to do the things the Republican Party wants them to do so they don't have to worry about democracy anymore. Does that make sense? It's the point that I've made before about the difference between consolidation and trying to bring in new people, where the conservative movement goes through cycles. Fundamentally, conservatism, at least in its current form, is built on hate. There isn't much of a pretense of like economic austerity. Like that's clearly not what people are fighting over anymore. So we'll just say hate. Reactionary politics. And there are two phases they cycle in between. There are phases where the Republican Party does this like outward reaching, oh, we don't hate people. We just hate like those crazy woke feminists or those like radical race activists, but we want everyone on board. Like, yeah. And this is around the time that you see people like Dave Rubin. Oh, look at him. He's like, he's like a liberal gay guy and he's with us. Or Tim Pool, he's a liberal. He was with the Occupy Wall Street protesters, but he's with us. And Blair White, we'll do all these interviews and talks with Blair White. See, we're not against transgender people. We're supportive of their mental illness as long as they aren't like delusional, Even Steven Crowder used to rep that. I bet you guys wouldn't believe it now, but back when I used to cover Steven Crowder, the way he talked about trans people was disingenuously sympathetic. Nowadays, well, now nobody listens to him, but nowadays, if you listen to him talk about trans people, just outright mockery and cruelty. But back in the day, there was more of this like, look, I think you're delusional, but I don't think we should be like enabling your delusion, like that kind of thing, I know that doesn't sound like that meaningful of a difference because obviously they're both covertly the same position. But what matters is the attempted outreach. And the conservatives all throughout Trump's presidency were doing this. All throughout like 2015, 2016, 17, Donald Trump holding up the LGBT flag. Remember? Back when he was running originally? A period of outreach. But as time went on, they lost interest in that. And I think the big turning point was January 6th. January 6th was like a big wake-up call to a lot of people. First of all, January 6th permanently locked a lot of people out of supporting conservatives in any kind of electoral sense. A lot of like independents, even if they don't like the Democrats, like January 6th was pretty obviously bad. So that was like an optics loss that kind of cut them out in a lot of ways. That's one. And for two, it was a reminder to the Republicans that they actually had an alternative avenue, right? They had another path to power that wasn't democratic. They had the, brown shirt path. And that's what they've been doing since then. So all of the like open, like sucking they've been doing of the January 6 protesters, all of the open promotion of crime and graft and authoritarianism, Trump joking about being an authoritarian when he gets into office, a dictator, Project 2025, all of it is an extension of the fact that they have more or less given up on the electoral approach. Maybe, humiliatingly, they still win electorally, which is an indication, if nothing else, of how bad a candidate Joe Biden is. But like, that's not the main thing they're gunning for, so to speak, at this point. Wasn't Charlottesville a stronger turning point? No. Back in 2017, the Republicans were still very much doing the like, oh no, we just think that liberals have gone crazy. The left has gone crazy, but we're the reasonable ones. We're not hateful at all, blah, blah, blah. Charlottesville was bad, and it did turn a lot of people against them, sure, but it wasn't like the point at which they shifted away, It wasn't the point at which they realized the other avenue was a possibility. Seriously, like, look, ever since Trump's presidency, even still, support for gay marriage has continued to go up. With the exception of this one dip, it's data. There's going to be variance, right? Up to 71%. Do you think marriages between same-sex couples should or should not be recognized by the law as valid with the same rights as traditional marriages? Look at that. Over the course of my lifetime, 1994, right back here, probably it was like, 25%? I don't know. We have gone from 1/4 to basically 3/4 of the population. Now, things have stalled right here because the remaining group who doesn't believe in this are either hardline conservatives or their reactionary politics are a bit more unwavering. But 71%, this is like a 40 point, actually it's a 42 point difference, isn't it? It'd be 71 to 29, 42 point difference. That's crazy. To support your point about how conservatives were in a sleeper phase before, Pat Robinson said in 2013 that being trans was not for us to judge. No kidding.
In the Bible. Go ahead.
This is David, who says, I work with two people who have decided that they are females. I know what the Bible says about homosexuality, but is it wrong to refer to them as females since they've had their gender status changed in the eyes of the law? Why would you have to refer to them as females?
I don't understand all that, but I think there are men who are in a woman's body. Mm-hmm. It's very rare, but it's true. Or women.
Woke Pat Robertson.
That are in men's bodies. And they want a sex change. And that is a very permanent thing. Believe me, when you have certain body parts amputated and you have shot up with various kinds of hormones.
Press pause for a second.
I don't know if the Christian Broadcast Network is like copyright.
He said believe me in a way that you would say that.
Oh, okay, they talk for a while. Oh, the clip, shows what needs to be shown. Oh my God, he almost seems compassionate. Well, I can't speak for Pat Robertson personally. He doesn't come across as a very compassionate person as like, on average, if you look at his behavior over the course of his lifetime. But yeah, again, like as we've said before, the current culture war, like the reactionary movement against trans people isn't a product of some long-standing, consistent hatred of trans people. It is a modern, constructed, deliberate reactionary hysteria, yes, that is being used as a political front. Pat Robertson is dead now, by the way. Well, that clip was from 2013, and he looked about 1,000 years old. So let's see. So after the Alabama state law passed by the Republican legislature and signed in by the Republican governor, then defended by the state Supreme Court, affirmed the personhood of fertilized eggs in the state of Alabama to a point where in vitro fertilization doesn't seem to be a legal thing you can do anymore. The Republican Party, in their infinite wisdom, has proposed a federal law. Steele and 123 other House GOP members sponsor the Life at Conception Act, which would grant equal protection to each and every member of the species Homo sapien at all stages of life, including the moment of fertilization. It also mentions cloning, no carve-out for in vitro fertilization. Let's go. You know what? I think they should do it. I have other options. I can f*** men, okay? There are plenty of people I can f*** who can't carry children. Do it. Do it. Make the entire nation hate you. Make every independent in this country f*** hate you. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Raise the birth rate. I don't care. Send it. Send it. No balls. Send it. No balls. Do it. However, nothing in this act shall be construed to authorize the prosecution of any woman for the death of her unborn child. Oh, well, look at that. A humanitarian carve-out. How nice. Unironically, if they push this, it would be devastating. Oh, yeah, to be sure. It's not going to pass, by the way. You know, obviously. Like, if it passed, it would have to be signed into law by Joe Biden. It's not going to pass. It is funny, though, how hard they're committing to this, you know? Will this prosecute men for vasectomies? No. It would begin at the fertilization of the egg. Even though, again, philosophically, the distinction for what is or isn't a person is not settled science. It can't ever be settled science. It's not science. It's philosophy. No way it's getting past the Senate. It's not going anywhere. It's just a virtue signal. It's funny because at the same time, take a look at this. What with all the fuss in Alabama right now with regards to in vitro fertilization, former President Donald Trump voiced support for in vitro fertilization Friday, urging the Alabama legislature to reverse the effects of a recent state Supreme Court ruling that led some clinics to pause treatments. The Republican Party should always be on the side of the miracle of life and the side of mothers, fathers, and their beautiful babies, Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social that marked his first comment on a topic that has roiled the GOP this week. Like the overwhelming majority of Americans, including the vast majority of Republicans, I want to do it in his voice, but I'm misspeaking so much that I feel like I'd fuck it up, you know? The vast majority of Republicans, conservatives, Christians, and pro-life Americans, I strongly support the availability of IVF for couples who are trying to have a precious baby, calling on the Alabama legislature to act quickly to find immediate solution to preserve the availability of IVF in Alabama. Huh. Nikki Haley struggled to define her position. In an interview with NBC News Wednesday, she said, "Embryos, to me, are babies." A very real position that real people have and don't just pretend to have. Wonderful. Anyway, I think this segment has probably extended out beyond the its initial confines. End of democracy, lads. Very good. I think Trump's demand to save IVF indicates the GOP knows it's cooked. Yeah, well, I think if nothing else, it's indicative of the fact that the GOP seems at least somewhat aware of how damaging this has been for them. They're, finally reaching the anti-abortion car, so to speak.